one thing I would just say to other caregivers
Mhm.
is if someone's offering to come help you,
Right.
let them help.
Yes.
Figure out something that's going to take something off your plate
Yes.
that will give them the opportunity to be
Mhm.
blessed by loving on your loved one.
Yes.
But also, we need to take care of the caregiver. So you've got to have
Yeah.
self-care.
Hi everyone, I'm Lexie Callies. Do you feel the squeeze of caring for an elderly loved one and school-aged children? Then welcome to the Sandwich Stories. Let's dig in. Hi everybody. It's Lexie Callies with Sandwich Stories, and I have a guest today. This is Mitzi Watson with Assisted Living Locators, and today she's actually going to talk to us about her own personal experience of caring for her loved ones and how that was when it came, how that affected her family and how she negotiated that. So hopefully we will have you back for another episode and we can talk about your business and maybe a few other things. But today it's personal stories. So we're going to go with that. So thanks, Mitzi. Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so I had the privilege of taking care of my mom. My dad passed in 2006, and she came to live with us, and she wanted to go back home after about a year and a half. So she did that, stayed at home about 4 years, and then she came back to us because she had to be with us. At that time, we learned that she had what they called mild cognitive impairment,
Okay.
which is the beginning stages of dementia. And we didn't really know what type of dementia at the time. We just knew things were changing for her. She knew things were changing for her as well.
And how was that for her? How was
when she was driving, she would get lost when she in an area that she's very familiar with.
right?
Her medication management became an issue. Like she couldn't keep track of what her meds were, what they were for, when I took them. Oh, did I take them?
Yes.
So there was a lot of that. And so with that comes all the problems of potential for overdosing herself or not having the medication that she truly needs. So that was becoming an issue. So those were our first two things that really impacted her living. And the getting lost was really the
Of course, that's the scariest.
So,
yes.
She ended up almost in Oklahoma one time.
Oh no, that's a long drive.
Yes, and I was out of the state at the time. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, we, as a family, other family members here were able to intercept her and get her back to where she needed to be.
And how did you find that she was that far away? Did she on the phone or did you have a tracker on her car?
I did not have a tracker on her. I wish I had, but she called me and she says, well, I was coming to your house because at the time she would come to my house and sit with my pets. And so she was coming to my house and you would come up 121 all the way. Well, she just kept going past the exit all the way almost to Oklahoma.
Wow.
So she called me and she says, I don't know where I'm at. And I
thank goodness she called you.
Yes. I said, well, I don't know where you're at. So let's try to figure this out. So realized she was when she told me what city she was in, I said, you're pretty far north. You're almost to Oklahoma. So let's call one of our family members. And I told her to start heading back down south.
Yes.
And got her to the city that we lived in and then just had her pull over. And my son-in-law went and got her. And this is scary. So he says, her name and said, could you just follow me? And I'm going to get you to the house. You just follow me. But when he left the parking lot, he turned right. And when she left the parking lot, she went left.
Oh, no.
And so he had to circle back around and go get her. And then just, guide her again, follow me.
Okay.
We quit driving soon after that.
I was going to say, that's normally a time to say, the keys don't need
to go away.
Yes, that was, my mom had something similar to that. Not that dramatic, but my dad would go to the grocery store and then he got a call she got a call from the lady at the grocery store saying he had come in saying he thought someone stole his car.
Oh.
Because he could not find the car in the parking lot. And it was in the handicap spot, like one of the very first cars. So that was, those kinds of things. And they do say that sometimes some of the first signs that you don't really realize is confusion within driving, that you don't, and it might be something as simple as you're driving slower, or it's just, you just seem a little more cautious or confused than you did shortly before that in some of the early stages.
And too, with dementia, they can be perfectly fine in one moment and the very next moment not be okay.
Right.
So
yeah, just one little something that might confuse them or scare them, and then it just takes them down a different. Yeah.
Almost a distraction, almost like ADHD or something.
Yeah. Yeah. We, in my family, we would call it the shiny ball.
Yeah.
So, my son, yes, the shiny ball syndrome in our house. So you had that with your mom, and that was, how did she react to you saying she shouldn't drive anymore? Was that a big thing in your family, or?
I would say it wasn't a terribly big thing.
Okay.
I realize it is for many senior
It
families,
is, yeah.
But for her, my mom's very tenderhearted, and I just told her, I said, Mom, if you had an accident and you hurt someone or killed someone, you'd never forgive yourself.
Right. Yes.
That would drive you crazy.
Right.
And so, let's don't even go there. Let's just don't do that. So, and
good.
she was willing to give the keys over.
Okay.
Doesn't happen all the time.
No,
for sure.
but that's good that she was open to that and did not fight you the way some have.
Right.
So, well, that's good.
Yeah. So she, when she moved in with us, here's my sandwich story.
Yes. Yes.
When she moved in with us, my youngest son and his new baby moved in with us.
Wow.
So it was a lot coming back home at the same time.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of stress involved in that, and new adjustments, and realizing just how much care she was needing. I didn't really realize until I got her home with me and we figured out what was going on. But she, she was one who loved being at home with us. She loved being around the grandchildren.
Yeah.
They always brought a smile to her face. Oh,
that's great.
They made her day. So, that's important to our families, is to stay intact as much as possible. And so part of the stress factor for me with her is we learned she has a lung disease that made her very prone to infections. And so when the girls or my son would bring the kids over, and they even had a runny nose, that became an issue for us, for contamination, good hand washing, doing all the things. But at the same time, it never failed. She would get sick, and then she would just, plummet.
Yeah.
And so we got to where we had to kind of put boundaries on when the kids could come, and that was hard because you as a grandparent, you always
that's hard for you. Yes, of course. That's hard for you. And how did your children take that? Was that,
well,
were they understanding?
The first few times it was like, it's just a cold. And I'm like, I know, but that cold for her is a whole different thing. It can turn into pneumonia and be really bad. And so after the first few episodes of that, they all understood and they did their best to help keep her well. It was a team effort.
Well, that's good. So. Yeah, that no one felt that it was almost like a personal affront to them or their family, that they didn't feel insulted.
No,
that you had to tell them, please don't come over.
Yeah. But and that broke my heart because this is when all my grandbabies were little, and my heart's desire was to be spending time with those grandbabies.
And so then how did you navigate that? If your mom is at home, but would you then tend to spend more time at their house or do things outside of the home with them to get that time?
Yeah, we would actually go to the kids' home, and I'd take her with us
Okay.
because, like I said, she was energized by seeing the babies
Mm-hmm.
and holding the babies.
Right.
But just um, getting us all together was very difficult sometimes, and so we would schedule specific outings. Like
Mhm.
at Christmas time, we'd do Great Wolf Lodge,
Okay.
and she could go with us.
Okay.
And then she could be in the room as long as, somebody's coming and checking on her
Okay.
and things like that. We would take her with us to as much as possible.
Okay. Is she still able to stay home by her first periods of time that she could stay home by herself safely, so that if one of the little ones might have been sick or had a runny nose, but you needed to go over there for whatever reason, she could stay home.
In the beginning.
In the beginning.
Mm-hmm. She was able to stay home, and I could like leave her a meal, for lunchtime, because I still worked when she came back to us. But I'd leave her a lunch, and then I'd come home from work, and she would have not eaten.
Right.
And I'm like, why didn't you eat? Well, I don't know.
Right.
And the food was ready for her. So we had a lot of that. And then over time, it got to where I couldn't leave her alone at all. And it wasn't so much from the standpoint of her trying to leave the property or wander away. It was more from the standpoint of she fell a lot. And so if she fell while we were gone, and then I was gone for an hour, and I got back, and she's been on the floor for an hour. Right. So that's what started.
That's really scary. Yeah, that can be scary. And so then how did you navigate that? So if you were already working and she's falling, were you able to coordinate with family, or was it more, okay, I'm going to have to give up what my job was, or how did what transpired from that?
Right. So I realized within the year of her being with us, having 12 different doctors for all the various things, and all the doctor's appointments, I couldn't keep up with my job.
Yeah.
And so I ended up quitting, my job as a nurse, and then, just basically took care of grandkids when they were well, and took care of mom for like 7 years.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's a long time too for her to be in your home. And
she was with us 9.5 years.
That's a long time.
It was an adjustment, and a lot of times, for young families, that's a problem because you can't afford that.
No,
you can't afford to do that. So
and even at an older age, there are those who you're lucky to have been able to afford to be able to be home for 7 years to care for your mother. And that was hard.
Yeah. So there's potential, anytime with caregiving, you're going to sacrifice some things.
Yeah.
And so personally for us, rolling into our retirement years, which, we are, it kind of impacts your planning for your retirement too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then how was your husband through all of this? Was he,
he's an angel.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is. He was so good to her always. And we would just laugh about some of the things because you have to.
Yeah.
Keep
I say that. Yeah.
You just have to laugh sometimes. But he was very supportive, and he could cover for me, in the early stages if I needed to get away for a couple hours, go run errands, whatever. He could be with her.
Okay.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
Because she was still able to bathroom herself and things like that. When she got to the point where she can't, then I couldn't do that to him. It's not right for him.
Right.
But he did everything. He was amazing.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful because yet again, he has his own plans. You both have plans for your future, and you both have an idea of what your future is going to be. And this was just a little bump in the road. And so then you're able to kind of say, okay, we got to pause on this. But that can, sadly, in some cases, luckily you had a great relationship and could have a supportive husband.
Right.
And I know others who have had their spouse be a little more resentful and say, this is not what I signed up for. This is not my parent. This is not.
Right. And this is impacting our future.
Yes. And yes. And especially if you can pay for it. If you're a family member, like your mother, if they're able to help pay for things or not pay for things, and how that affects your financial lines too, because if you have a loved one who can't cover things or doesn't come in with the financials to help pay for themselves, that's on you also to foot the bill.
Right. And that's exactly our situation, because when she came to us, when someone makes $900 a month in Social Security,
wow, yeah,
she did qualify for some Medicaid programs.
Okay.
Not nursing home Medicaid. We weren't interested in that because I didn't really want her to do that.
Right. Yeah.
But Medicaid, we did apply and we did get some services, and through that we had some caregivers that could come into the house. And they started out at about 10 hours a week. And then eventually we were up to about 40 hours a week.
Wow.
Of them coming in. But even that wasn't enough at one point towards the latter part. But Medicaid was something we had to utilize with her. And then when it did come time, eventually for us to find her a place, we switched to Veterans Aid and Attendant.
Okay.
And because they pay you directly, then I could take that amount of money, put it with her little bit of money, and then I contributed, my brother contributed, and I worked for that place as a nurse.
Wow.
To help pay for her to be there.
That's amazing. And then you said you had a brother who helped. Did you have other siblings who were able, or is it just your brother?
I'm one of three.
Okay.
I lost my oldest one when he was 41. And then so it's just me and my younger brother.
Right.
So, and he's a truck driver, so he's gone a lot, most of the time. But he, even towards the end, he realized, I needed breaks and I needed help. And he would come in, just for the weekend, pile up on the floor beside her in the bed, he would do things I did, to help take care of her. So
that's so nice.
It took a team.
Yeah, it does. It takes a team. I don't think a lot of people realize sometimes how big of a team it can be. And you're so lucky to have had a brother that could come and help when he could.
Right.
Your husband. Were your children, did they come and help? I know they had littles, but were they able to?
I didn't ask them.
You didn't ask them.
Because I know they're busy.
And of course.
But I had a couple good friends that if I was in a pinch, I could call them and they would come.
Okay.
One thing I would just say to other caregivers is, if someone's offering to come help you, let them help.
Yes.
Figure out something that's going to take something off your plate.
Yes.
That will give them the opportunity to be blessed by loving on your loved one.
Yes.
But also, we need to take care of the caregiver. So you've got to have self-care.
Yes. And it is hard as a caregiver to say yes to others. It's not, we as a society don't want to burden others. We, and I think there are times when we feel that we're almost projecting onto them. Oh, they have other things to do. They're busy. They're this, they're that. I don't want to bother them. But like you said, if they're offering, you can't project your own they can't onto them, or I don't want to bother them. Those kinds of things. They're offering. Take it, like you said, take it in. Even if it's just that, hey, like for me, and some of my other friends who have younger ones, it would be, hey, can I take them to the park? Can they come over for a play date and you get that time? Or for you to be able to get out and even if it meant you got to go to the grocery store.
Right.
You know?
To the grocery store without worrying about
Yes.
the fire alarm going off.
Of course.
Or, she would play with her buttons and the police would get called.
Oh, goodness.
Because I had the buttons.
Yes, yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, that's tough. And then how was that? So you moved your mother into nursing care, and so you specifically were you able to specifically find a location that was hiring at the same time, or did it just happen that way?
It just happened
It just happened that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they realized I was switching her from Medicaid to Veterans Aid and Attendant.
Mhm.
That would give a little bit more money,
Mhm.
and then us contributing and me working there. It all fell into place. And keep in mind, this is in COVID.
Yeah. Wow.
So she actually did a respite stay there while my husband had a double knee replacement in
Mhm.
December of 19.
Okay.
And then we brought her back home,
Mhm.
and she was to the point where she was a 2-person transfer or a Hoyer lift.
Yes.
It was difficult. So
Mhm.
the care home that we moved her to was owned by a nurse,
Mhm.
and she had been doing her care home for 17 years.
Mhm.
And she and her husband ran it, and I just told them the situation. I knew them because of my business,
Mhm.
and they just were willing to work with me, and
Wow.
I'll forever be grateful for that.
Yes.
So.
And then so you were able to yes, you worked there as a nurse, so you took on roles for other
Mhm.
residents also
Right.
on top of your mother.
Right. And so I probably would not have taken her there during COVID
Right.
if I couldn't go see her.
Of course.
So there was no way that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So this just all fell into place. And so I would go, I'd set up med trays, I cooked, I care gave.
Wow.
Did whatever needed to be done for all of them, not just my mom.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, COVID was hard. We've all,
it sure was.
All the stories that came out of that. And I've shared my own story on here about COVID with my dad, but there was a lady who was at my dad's residence, and her husband was there, and she said they needed a dishwasher, and she said I will take the job as a dishwasher because that allowed her to go into the facility, and then she could see her husband. And I don't, it's tough. Like you get so emotional about it because I feel like I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't have my mom, if my mom wasn't, I think if it had just been my dad, I would have said, whatever I need to do to get into this facility is what I would have done. But I also didn't want the back and forth because I had, my son was, in 19, he was 7. So 20, he was 8. And, in school for part of that because our district went back to school in the fall of 20. So, it was just, but then my dad passed away. So we didn't have to worry about that. But I did worry sometimes because my son was still out and about and doing things. And I would have been, going, if it was, like I said, if it was just my dad, I would have done it 100% been there. But I still had to think about my mom too. And she was starting to have, the starts of her disease too. So I was like, oh, I kind of need to be able to do both. And I had to pick one.
Yeah.
And at least I knew my dad was safe. And then my mom, I had to say, okay, I'm going to focus with mom and still be a mom of an 8-year-old.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, especially young families. And I see, with my business, I see every day grandkids that are stepping in to fill that role.
Yeah, it's amazing that I have started to hear that more, that grandchildren are starting to be the caretakers. But the other one, and if you can help me with this, I would love it, is the school-age children caretakers for their parents. That is actually, they're almost the hidden children caretakers of the United States now, where they are still grade school. but they have parents who might have MS or some other illness, chronic illness, and they are the caretaker to their parent, but they might be 12 years old.
Yeah.
So those are, those are the hidden heroes that
Yeah.
are starting
You
to
don't hear
show.
much about
You don't hear about them. They tend to hide because they don't want to be taken away. Those kinds of things. It's tough.
Yeah.
But it's amazing all the different dynamics of caretaking. And I mean, to have, like you said, when your son moved in, you had 4 generations in one house, and that was a lot. And then was he with you for a long time, or did they live with you for quite a while?
Yeah, they lived with us probably 14 months.
Okay.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and he was, it was a personal time, but we had the baby every other weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, it was a lot, but it was fun at the same time because got to love on the baby, got to, he was good medicine for her. And so it worked. We made it work.
Thank you so much for listening to Sandwich Stories. I really hope you learned some new things and enjoyed it. If you did, tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your sister, tell your dad, tell everybody you know to also listen. Maybe they'll learn some new things, how to help each other out, and find us at Sandwich Stories Podcast. Thanks so much.